this and more, lots more.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports podcast, where it is not wrestling with your budget, but the way it went in the wrestling world this week, it certainly is wrestling with emotion. Jake Micah here with Slick Al, the Prophet, Rob Ryan, and the head of the table, Michael Partham. What a weekend! What a weekend of professional wrestling we had, starting on Saturday night. Survivor Series took place in Vancouver, British Columbia. It led into one of the best Monday Night Raw. Honestly, one of the best Monday Night Raws I've ever seen, guys. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. At least angle wise, 2 hours. First of all, they have figured out the 2 hours, and there was action the whole way through. So we're gonna touch on that, but we got to start with Survivor Series there, and then the Continental Classic rolling on.
If we're gonna start with Survivor Series, we gotta start it the right way.
War Games!
No.
I have a lot of things I want to get off my chest.
So, unfortunately, I was unable to make it on Saturday for the preview show, and we had some individuals talking shit. And Slick, you're not alone in this, so let's bring you also on the stage.
I didn't say anything.
But whoa, I have some evidence that you did. So let's bring you back on the stage for now. First, we're going to talk about McAdoo, who isn't here because he's afraid of me. Well, I'm here, and everyone gives a shit. You know, as the McAdoo quoted the other day, the Prophet isn't here, so who gives a shit? Well, everyone gives a shit now that I'm back. Secondly, Slick, you said, and I quote, even when he isn't here, he shouldn't be getting shout-outs. I guarantee the chat is about to go. First, the Prophet always deserves the shout-outs. Second, you think I watch you guys when I'm not on here?
No, well, clearly you were. You were in the chat like the entire time.
And lastly, Parthy. I have a few for you, and I quote, the Prophet likes to use the clips that I provide him, by the way, like he's a little toddler in an elevator pushing all the buttons and whatnot. No. The Prophet doesn't take anything of other people. It's only mine. Secondly, another, and I quote, he's only right because he steals our takes and accuses us of stealing his, like, metaphysically or something. No, you guys read my mind because that's what the Prophet allows other people to do. They bring into this great mind of mine. And lastly, I also have one from McAdoo. Don't give him that shit. His ego is going to grow. You guys are going to fill his head full of lies. No one fills my head full of anything, and the ego will grow, and it's not the way that you people want it to.
Who the hell told you tonight was open mic night, bitch?
Shut up while I'm conducting business.
Who the hell do you think you are?
See, this is what happens when we start playing all the clips. No one knows what clip is coming from who here.
Your biggest issue.
The Prophet's only issue is with you people right now.
All right. To the Prophet, I have this much I'd like to say.
You talk too much and you don't listen enough.
Wah. All right, now back to
Survivor Series. This is what happens when we play the clips, and then there goes another clip right from the hip. Oh, crazy. Anyway, let's just. Prophet did his little shoot from the hip thing. All shooting, no kayfabe. It's okay. We'll take it. Let's get into the Survivor Series main event as Micah was trying to conduct actual business.
No, that was important though, Slick. We did have to.
Yeah, we needed, like Rob said, he needed to get some things off his chest.
If Rob would have let me know, I would have had the graphic. The Prophet addresses his enemies to start the show.
Oh man, yeah, dude, we need that.
That's basically where we're at here.
All right, now that we've gotten things off of the Prophet's chest, can we start our Survivor Series review?
Business.
Calm down.
Let's go.
All right,
beautiful. He did do another rendition of it. It was a great social post there. We got to start with the main event, though. We'll talk about the rest. We'll touch on stuff on the rest of the show, but the main event it felt like a one match card by the time at the end of it. Even the women's war games. Shout out to them for going out there and trying to do something, but it just didn't have the gravitas that this men's main event had. And I don't know why they started the babyface team first. It just doesn't work as well for a war games match either.
You think they counted Nia as two people? I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking, but Nia for 40 minutes is also crazy. I love Nia, but she's not a 40-minute.
That was
wrestler.
sort of
she wasn't happy on Twitter.
That was a whole other thing that she got upset over someone basically intimating that she was trash. But it was real.
She is trash.
They were calling her performance trash, but they didn't say it so much in the tweet. I think it's you have to know the difference between personally calling someone trash, which we often do with Vince McMahon and like John Laurinaitis and such reprehensible people, and then calling someone's performance trash, which sometimes happens in professional wrestling.
Yeah, that's facts. But it's not a lot to go off of there with that match. We have to start with the main event because, first of all, the setup here is Punk and Roman just being able to coexist, right? Just these two huge egos. And I thought the way they played it off was perfect. You see Punk, going to rile up the guys at the beginning of the match, and Bronson Reed and Jacob Fatu like digging and clawing.
Was that a shoot with Punk? We'll never know.
Supposedly off script. There, you never know. But hey, that's a good move. That's just a vet move, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm more excited. Like there's nothing that hurts. There's nothing that's wrong. It's just like, oh yeah, this is a little thing to enhance this. And shout out to Jacob and Bronson for eating right up to it.
I want to know what happened though. I want to was Bronson about to say something or something because the screen went black.
Yeah, I wonder if you could see or hear something clearly, and they had to bleep it out with some F-bombs or something like that. Because it did cut out I didn't know if that was just me or not, so I'm glad that you brought that up. But anyways, it was a crazy moment there. The match didn't really start. The big beats of the match start when Punk thinks he's going to enter, and Roman, the most watched, that's the one that's the most watched social clip this year, right? 107 million, they said, or something, where Roman puts his arm out, stops Punk from going out there. Sami Zayn looks like a scared child running to the ring, doesn't know what to do. And then Roman's getting ready to go out. The next entrant, Punk. I love how Punk did this, how he was just kind of leaning and just looking pissed off and then just blows out of it. They were like, it was like high school. It was like two 16-year-olds trying to alpha each other over and over. But it worked out. The dynamic to the match was great. What did you think about the match in general, Slick? As we got to the end here, the baby faces go over, which I'm surprised by. I don't think I made official picks, but I will own up to it. I was going to pick the new bloodline, the Temu bloodline, and Roman Reigns and crew go over. They all destroy Solo, go over in the match. But there's a lot of story beats in there with Punk that are key to Monday night. But how did you enjoy the men's main event?
I enjoyed it quite a bit more than I anticipated, actually. Obviously, CM Punk and Roman, the tension throughout the match was probably the highlight for most people. I think I started to really enjoy the match when the War Games match actually got underway with the 5v5. Before then, it seemed like kind of spot fest props all over the place, a little bit of chaos. Like when Punk got in there with the toolbox, I was like, oh, here's Hell in a Cell all over again, where they bringing out every little bit of arsenal they can. And it was kind of going back and forth between two guys do this and then another pairing do this spot. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. But once the match really got underway is where the storytelling came out and you had all these individual feuds from the past come up and you had Solo getting his beat down at a point from everyone for all the hatred that he's drawn from all those guys on the side of the OG bloodline. And I thought the storytelling, not only with Sammy and the Usos at points, but as highlighted already, Punk and Roman was perfect. The Roman spear with Punk, I mean, you had to see something like that coming. And then the tsunami off the cage where Punk saves Roman. I got to give it to CM Punk because that was the most perfectly timed. It looked absolutely great. So well executed on live television at the time. Really well done to both guys. And oh my God, Bronson Reed taking a bump like that. I think him and Jey Uso both suffered some bruises and such from that. But I was really entertained by the match overall. And yeah, I think there's a lot of great things to come out of it. I thought they stretched out the ending a little bit. They were teasing us a little bit to the point where we're like, okay, this is a bit long to be thinking. I think something's got to happen, but nothing ended up. Just the OG bloodline holding up ones while CM Punk is sleeping.
Bro, it was hilarious to see Punk walk out and then walk back in. Like he thought the show was done.
Yeah. I thought I noticed that too.
I was like, get your ass back out there, bro. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think to add on to that, the ending, I think WWE played us all. Everyone was expecting something to happen because that exit was way too long. They don't usually, after
Way too long.
pay-per-view, unless it's like WrestleMania, they don't usually keep it that long where they're walking up the whole stage and stuff. I could have sworn, especially when Punk left the stage, I could have sworn The Rock was coming out. But it might have just been a screw up or something because that was just really odd to me.
I was hoping so badly that the reason Punk was going ahead of them on the way to Gorilla was so that Rock could come out and we'd get a brief Punk and Rocky like face off. And then he goes to confront the actual OG bloodline who he actually has an immediate problem with. I thought that would have been legendary, but you can tell they knew what they were doing with that. They're picking their cards and setting up for a future bigger moment. When that may be, who knows? But am I wrong that there was another Saturday night main event announced today?
In Austin and read the week before Royal Rumble.
Week before Royal Rumble. How convenient. Yeah. Maybe we find out what Rocky gave to Cody.
Since we're talking about The Rock, have you seen the reports allegedly that The Rock is not in the plans for WrestleMania 41, at least currently? But this has been reported out there before, and Rock himself went on Instagram saying, "Don't believe that BS." He hasn't as of yet tried to refute it on any social media platform, but you have to figure that only like the top 5 people in the company or people that need to be involved are in on this stuff. And any kind of like match card or run sheets that are being distributed right now so people have a idea of the lay of the land for the road to WrestleMania, they're leaving out, the really important top stuff because that's like top secret. And Cody's been telling us, be prepared for something crazy for WrestleMania. People aren't going to know what's coming. So I take this with a huge silo of winter salt.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. The only people that know what's going on with The Rock are The Rock, Brian Gewirtz, Nick Khan, and Triple H. And then maybe Cody if it's going on with him, or maybe Roman if it's going on with him. Like, you're completely right. It's the very tippy top people that know. So any dirt sheet stuff about The Rock, you really just, you can't believe that. And he's also the betting yesterday.
Not on the card right now, and they haven't finalized what they're going to do with him. But that doesn't mean he's not going to be on there.
Well, yeah, right? I mean,
he is the betting favorite according to Bet Online to be the Royal Rumble winner. Right
I just don't know why. I think we were all talking about this yesterday. Like, you'd have to pull some serious heel tactics for The Rock to win the Rumble and have it make sense. Because if you're wasting a year on The Rock to win the Rumble at 41, when you could just throw him in against Cody or Roman without winning that and taking up a spot like that, why the hell would you do it?
Here's my rebuttal to that. Here's my quick rebuttal to that. Because if Cena is going to be the other main event, it makes more sense for Cena to have to go through the elimination chamber, I feel like, and lose in the Rumble. Because if he loses in the Rumble to The Rock, then it's like, oh my God, like Cena's getting screwed over again. Like now he's going to have to fight Bronson Reed and whoever these monsters are in the chamber. He's washed, like he's old, and he'll have a super Cena performance. He's going to, he's had chamber wins and everything else, and they've already advertised him for it. So if he's going to have a big chamber match and wins the Rumble, what's he going to do at the chamber if he was the Rumble winner? Is he going to fight early for the title? Like, it's a weird thing. I feel like you extend that, let him win at the chamber, and then keep that story going when he comes back. I just
don't know why we're so locked in on John Cena having a main event spot at Wrestle for like one of the belts. Obviously he can get a main event spot, but like why does it need to be for a title? Or like, why not an undercard title? Or like, why not just against a guy like Randy?
Yeah,
like, it doesn't need
John
to
Cena's
be against
WrestleMania can sell itself. You don't need to have.
Yeah, you don't need
you
don't need one of the belt spots, in my opinion.
And I think that's a better story if I think that's a good story too. Because they can extend it and do it in a surprise spot. The whole thing is he's going to want to win that number 17, right? Like, that's what we're going to be looking for.
Yeah.
And so if everybody's expecting it to happen at Mania, a good way to subvert it is Bro doesn't even have a title match at Mania. Like, you're not even good enough to get into the spot. How are you ever going to get this title, man?
Well, the other storyline
throughout the year.
The other storyline going on with John Cena right now is he hasn't won a singles match since before his match with Solo Sikoa. And how long ago was that now? 1 year?
Yeah.
Was it like last year? Over a year ago?
A year and a half ago?
Could that be the storyline leading up to WrestleMania where he doesn't get his first singles win in a while until WrestleMania, whoever's opponent is?
It's true.
Could we see them drag that out?
Yeah. The only thing I want to add on to those odds is that I understand for the women's side, Becky probably will be back by then. But I mean, we have on the men's side a man who is not a full-time wrestler, not even like really signed to a contract. And then we have a woman who's actually not signed to a contract. I mean, like publicly. But so, I mean, it's got to take those with a grain of salt.
We do, but the fact that Becky is at the Netflix thing is crazy. Without being on TV.
I mean, that
like,
pretty much tells you.
That pretty much tells that Jan 1st Raw, that Becky Lynch music's gonna hit like crazy. That's what
I mean, it's not even a question. Like, that's all you needed. And she's there with Seth, makes sense. But like the fact that they advertised it a little before,
she can't be in that picture unless she's showing up on Netflix.
Exactly,
you don't do that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got this is all very important to the main event scene because the WrestleMania scene has been set up from this main event, and it took us into Monday Night Raw with one of the best opening segments I've ever seen. Punk starts the show, and he comes out and he basically says, and let's the key thing that is the beginning is he daps up Jey Uso before he walks in, shakes Sammy's hand. They're showing a sign of respect.
He says, "Sammy, I apologize for the press conference."
Yeah, that was hilarious. And Punk's out there and he says, listen, I've got one thing on my mind, one thing I'm here for, points to a metaphorical WrestleMania sign. We all know he wants that main event WrestleMania. He wants the title, everything else. And that Seth Rollins music hits. And the meme reactions now of CM Punk
getting interrupted by Seth Rollins over and over.
Amazing. The camera shot they do of
Judgment Day level of greatness.
It really is, because you just see Seth like coming out and doing his stupid little dance, and he's got this like ridiculous suit on. Punk's just like, this fucking guy.
This guy again,
this guy. And Seth basically comes out and says, listen, I should have just punched you in the face 6 months ago when you showed up. And they just start going back and forth, building on what their feud is eventually going to be. Punk says he doesn't think about him at all. Rollins is beneath him. According to Ibu of WrestlePurist, that's a shoot. That's not, and I think that's a thing that CM Punk really does believe, especially when you see him interacting with Roman Reigns and doing the big business they could have done. But alas, we're getting something with Rollins and Punk out of this. Rollins initiates physicality. He shoves Punk down. Then they have a hilarious boxing match. Slick.
Can we talk about how CM Punk learned nothing in the UFC? I mean, what was that?
Our resident.
What did you expect him to actually try and shoot punch him?
Right hook? Partham, I don't care if they were bro. That, oh my god, a lot of people can make a fight look more real.
You gotta find that.
Yeah, so I was about to just try and pull it up.
I'll look for it. It was hilarious though. But then the fight gets broken up and broken up by Sammy and Jay. Rollins comes after Jay, tells him to run back to Roman, which was a funny little line. And then Rollins and Sammy going back after it. Rob, who was in the right? Let's start with you and then go to Partham and come back around. Who was in the right, Sammy or Seth, in this? Because they both made a lot of compelling points, and I want to see which ones you thought were the most impactful.
I think the most impactful one was Sammy saying, "You're calling Roman a monster, but who created the monster is you." And then for Seth to go right back and say, "You also hit Roman with the chair, so I don't want to hear it," was, I think, the top moment of that. But I think they both brought up valid opinions. But I think it all goes back. It all goes back to what I just said: is the monster was created the moment that Seth turned on him back in 2014. So I think Sammy's in the right, where there's no tribal chief, head of the table, anything Roman Reigns besides, Big Dog getting dog food thrown in his face, other than Seth hitting him with a chair 10 years ago.
Well, I think that was pretty compelling, them comparing their chair shots and betrayals of Roman to each other. It was very, when Sammy happened, it was very echoey of what Rollins did. But the thing is with that, and Seth has said in a sit-down interview when they were leading up to the creation of the World Heavyweight Championship in that tournament final, he was talking about Roman Reigns, saying, "You know what? I'm always going to love Roman Reigns because he's a brother and he's a member of the Shield. But right now, I don't like Roman Reigns because of all the, the tribal chief stuff that had been going on, the bloodline and the dominance that they had." And he admitted that maybe I had a part in creating that monster when I put the chair in his back. So Seth has admitted on his own before that maybe he had a part in that. But what's curious to me is that like 3 years later, after all the authority stuff was done and Seth and Dean Ambrose had sort of made up on their own. The Shield reunited. So, I mean, and of course, obviously, Roman never forgot that. He took his opportunity to stab Seth right in the back with a chair this past WrestleMania. He always in the back of his mind, he always wanted that little get back. But it's not like this led directly to the creation of the bloodline. That was a few years off. So it's a little curious, that a little bit of revisionist history, but you can sort of see where, Sammy was trying to make that point. And Seth has said before that he had a hand in leading to what Roman Reigns is today. But yeah, it was when you think about it, it's kind of curious that that incident is connected to Roman Reigns' tribal chief bloodline. But yeah, them comparing each other's, betrayals of Roman was pretty compelling. And as far as who is right, I mean, it's the same argument with Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. I expect Kevin Owens to comment when he's done with Cody at Saturday night's main event. He's probably going to, start taking pot shots at Sammy, because who's going to be more mad at teaming up with Roman Reigns than Kevin Owens, especially his own buddy Sammy. So it's almost a very echoey storyline with that Seth Rollins and KO have, where they're very upset at anybody who allies themselves with Roman Reigns. Yeah. And Seth, in addition, anybody who teams with CM Punk, even if temporarily speaking.
Now, let me just add to the point of the Seth he played a small role, but not the huge role. Just think about it. Seth, Roman, when he was tribal chief, never really showed emotion to his family. He was always in charge at all the time. Think about the one time that he did show emotion and he did have a brother that he loved.
The Royal Rumble.
It was Seth. So, I mean, it is a minor part, but it is a big part of who the tribal chief was from 2020 to 2024.
So that he didn't emotionally invest even in his own family.
Yeah.
That was part of his new tribe here. So that he didn't allow himself to get stabbed in the back. And he always was paranoid that anybody was going to stab him in the back, which Sammy and Jay both eventually did.
Yeah, exactly. Remember, the Shield was his family as well.
I thought both had compelling arguments in the fact Seth was mad at Sammy for backing up and fighting with CM Punk, and Sammy told Seth, listen, I came and asked you twice. You were not willing to stand by my side. In this case, it's not like I wanted to fight CM Punk, and I thought fight with CM Punk, and I thought that was a really good touch after they just released the videos of all the interviews with guys about how they felt right in the moment when Punk came back at the last Survivor Series, because Sammy was one of the ones to openly be like, yeah, we have not really gotten along, seen eye to eye in the past. But so it wasn't like a happy feeling, but soon after that, we settled our differences. But that was a nice touch of them on Sammy's part. But I do not blame Seth either for blaming Sammy for helping this bloodline stick around as long as it has. Both have compelling arguments, and I wouldn't say either's right. Sorry, go ahead, Partham.
It was ironic to me when you were describing Jake earlier, that very much viewed clip of Roman stopping Punk and letting Sammy go. It was just a few weeks ago, and we saw it ourselves live and in person, that Roman wasn't very hot on Sammy, rejoining his team either. And now Buffalo. So I guess it took someone that Roman dislikes even more than Sammy for him to actually favor Sammy. Going out, and I
don't even know if as much as dislike Mike. I think it's sees as a threat. I think that's what we're supposed to see. Where he's not threatened by Sammy. He beat him. He's old news. Whatever. Punk is a threat because of the Heyman factor as much as anything. Punk
he's
called
a threat
him
to taking his wise man.
Yeah, and he knows that's where his power lies.
What do we all think the favor is?
I think a main event of WrestleMania.
Or it's to take Heyman.
See, a main event at WrestleMania. Wow, that would be crazy. But all signs for me say it's gonna be Rock, Roman, and then Cody and somebody else.
Or it's a situation where it's if when Roman gets the title back, I get a shot.
That's my thinking. Is a title shot when Roman seizes the throne again.
Because Roman will be champion within the next calendar year for sure.
I agree.
He's going to be champion again.
I agree. Whether he's the one to take it off Cody or not, I don't know, but definitely within the next calendar year, without a doubt.
I don't think you can go right back to trilogy and
I
have
am-
Cody lose. If you're trying to build Cody,
I don't think
into
they
the
do it
next,
at.
like-
I don't think they do it at 41. I don't think that they would.
I could see them doing it, running it back at Royal Rumble.
I could see that.
But I would see Cody retaining as a little preview of if that match happens.
Yeah,
I don't. Wow, I don't. Another Roman title reign seems a lot far off because I would think they would want to elevate somebody else to take that title off of Cody. If it's not Randy Orton with a temporary title run when he gets back and he wants a shot at Cody's title,
Or Kevin for a month.
Or Kevin.
If he wins this Saturday.
I mean,
or next
Roman
Saturday,
could
because-
go for the world heavyweight. Who knows?
yeah, that would take a draft and him going over to Raw, I guess.
Well, we all know he's going to Raw. They want him on Netflix.
Oh, Netflix, yeah. Well,
Netflix,
Netflix
yeah.
wants all the big guns, I guess.
That's
Not
what I
gonna
wonder.
lie.
I wonder if Gunther if the world heavyweight ends up on SmackDown and the WWE ends back up on Raw once we go to Netflix.
Well, now we're going to complicate things because the women's world heavyweight is on Raw. You're going to shift both world
You got to
titles
shift
at the same
every
time?
title
Yeah.
whenever.
I mean, there's
whenever a
just
title
so
shifts,
many belts.
because
It's
now
just so
there's
hard
a
to
woman's
keep
one
track.
for each for all
It's gonna-
four. So
It's gonna get crazy once they're on Netflix because they're gonna want everybody on Netflix. As many big stars as they
Well,
can
it's not
get
going
on
to get
Netflix,
too
they're
crazy
gonna get
because they came out today saying they're not going to R rating or X rating. At the very least, just stop muting the chants. That's all we ask. You don't have to go to the Attitude Era. You don't have to go ECW. Just stop muting the chants. All right.
I agree. It's the
Yeah, I
worst.
don't
Takes you
think we
so
ever
far out
thought
of
we were
it.
gonna get too crazy like that, but certainly exciting stuff with Netflix on the horizon and the road to WrestleMania. Seemingly
So, yeah.
Netflix is the road to WrestleMania. This is the gateway to the road to WrestleMania.
Yeah, the road on Netflix is going to be nuts, and it's going to be a lot of these guys that we're talking about. The way they set this up, this felt like the very first strike in the build, finally getting towards the Rumble, obviously towards WrestleMania, with where these guys are going to take sides, and a lot of it's going to be bloodline focused and how it all interacts. And the Sammy and Seth thing was a great point about that. I don't know how I think that it was. The big thing I took away from it the most is that it was the realest and the best I've seen of Rollins in so long. Like that when Rollins is motivated and is not trying to act like a cartoon character or the Joker or whatever he's doing, he can be really compelling. And he had a lot of good shit to say. Sammy's loyalty lies with Jay. That's where Sammy is too. He's just so emotional when it comes to his guys, and Jay is one of his guys. It's not even about Roman as much as he was backing up Jay, right? Like Jay's the one who was desperately asking him. I don't think Sammy really likes Roman because of this, and that's where he's like, Seth, what are you getting mad at me? Like, I try, like, it's not as big of a deal as you think it is in this match, lesser of two evils type deal with what the other bloodline's doing. But it was really compelling stuff, and it led us to our main event where they just basically said, let's fight it out. Before the main event starts, we see some commotion backstage. Poor Pete Dunne on this episode of Raw, by the way. Pete Dunne gets his promo time cut short because someone attacks Jey Uso backstage, and they go to that. And then Pete Dunne gets mad that a little kid is calling him Butch and gets rolled up by R-Truth back-to-back segments. It's just a tough night. But that's a quick aside. We get to the main event, and Sammy just thinks Seth is the one who attacked Jay, and he brings a chair in the ring. He's like yelling at him, everything else. And then a hooded figure appears, gets a nice little Claymore action to Sami Zayn, and Drew McIntyre has returned. And that makes everything interesting to what you were saying earlier, Partham. And I'll go jump to you here because, as you said, KO and Seth morally aligned against the bloodline right now. Like KO going to have issues with Sammy. Obviously already has issues with Roman. Cody, wherever he lies into this now. KO and Seth also with a lot of history as a tag team and friends together. They can go back and explore. Drew McIntyre seems to be a guy that would be siding with KO and Seth Rollins here on this, though. And that'd be an interesting dynamic if they're working together, the enemy of my enemy is my friend type deal with the history that we've seen the past couple of years with Rollins and McIntyre. That's a fun dynamic to explore. But those three kind of taking on the bloodline sympathizers in the WWE heading into WrestleMania season and seeing where the rest of the roster kind of ends up falling too is really compelling for the next 4 months. Like,
yeah,
I'm
you
so
can
excited
definitely
about this.
see like some tag matches and 6-man tag matches coming out of this leading up to whatever matches we're getting at WrestleMania. It's going to be like a mix and match thing. One question I have regarding the bloodline, not to take us off the Raw
go for it.
timeline path. So Sammy and Jay have fulfilled their obligations to Roman, and Sammy to Jay, his obligation to Jay, who had an obligation to Roman. Jimmy Uso said during the press conference he has a broken toe, so he might be off TV or at least ineffectual for a while. That leaves Roman once again by himself. I mean, they defeated the new bloodline, but now he doesn't necessarily have anybody backing him up. He's definitely going to want to challenge Solo Sikoa for a Tribal Chief match. Maybe at Saturday night's main event, maybe at the Netflix debut, maybe at the Royal Rumble, who knows? But he's basically going to be standing alone again. And how long will it take before he needs help again? And he needs all his family and allies to come together once again. But
I could see them lining up Roman Solo for like that San Antonio main event.
But
sorry,
that's
go ahead,
why
Prophet.
he has the wise man. He has the wise man to handle these problems. He's back.
But what's the wise man up to? What's
what
the wise
is
man
the
doing,
wise
man?
man up
What
to?
is
That's the wise man is the key to this.
That's the
whole
$1 million question here, because we have nights he's coming out dressed exactly like Solo. We have
just
nights
for that
where
one
he's introducing
he-
CM
he
Punk as
winked
the
at
fifth
Jimmy
member.
Uso on that night too.
Could he be doing some of this?
Oh well, let me tell you, he's definitely doing
He's
some of that.
definitely doing that. Yeah.
Where do you
That's
think
the key to the wise man.
Where do you think the greatness comes from, brother?
smoking a joint in the back with Van Dam, right?
ECW baby, let's go.
All right, so getting back to Raw, Drew McIntyre coming out when it seemed too obvious that it was going to be Seth. I mean, it's never what they telegraph it is. So remembering that McIntyre had been out for a while and we just got back past another pay-per-view, I was pretty much thinking it was going to be McIntyre. And
You were on it.
And then it happened.
I prayed for this and it happened.
All right, that was good. That was good.
And we know McIntyre hates Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. Like, if there's anything we know,
There's so much dynamic here.
Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. Like,
by the way, the ending of that match was shit. So I'm so glad Drew came
well,
back.
I hope they run back. They're gonna run back Sami and Seth for properly for sure. Like we'll see that.
But just being in the ring during a match and like arguing like that was so stupid. I thought
it was kind of just like. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I thought we moved past this kind of childish shit in WWE. But anyway,
I think it all worked well with like how it ended, but I thought it was kind of weird how like at first. I mean, it makes sense now, putting it all pieces together, but like for Sami and Seth just start attacking each other when like they could have been doing it for weeks. It adds up now, but like they could have been doing it for weeks the moment Sami came back to the bloodline, and Seth had a problem with it, but like he was just like, no, I'm not helping you. Like he didn't like start attacking Sami weeks ago for doing it. It was kind of weird, but it makes sense now with the direction they're going.
Seth sat there and watched it Saturday night and just got like more and more like the Arthur meme more and more as he's watching that match unfold. Like it was like the idea of it was annoying, and then when it actually happened, he's like, "Fuck these guys!" Like,
bro, Seth saw the ones and Punk doing this and was like, "That's the last straw."
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
that was it.
Broke the straw. Back.
And they're still kind of reluctant, Rob. That's the thing, is like they weren't even agreeing to the match. They weren't like, I hate you. Sammy's like, you seem frustrated, Seth. Let's go like duke it out. As brothers.
So like men.
Yeah, settle like it wasn't like hatred. Maybe it gets to that point where one of those two. I don't think it does though. I don't know if in their characters either of them are turning like more heel. Maybe Seth is turning a little more heelish here, because that could be the way that they go here. And he hasn't been a heel in quite a long time, honestly.
Well, let's transition here, if I may, gentlemen. Yeah. Speaking of turning heel and not being heel in quite a while,
get to this.
We had a hell of a heel turn in the middle of Monday Night Raw, and for a group that started out being disliked, I mean, they found a way to make us dislike them even more. Not just Xavier Woods, but Kofi Kingston, and they do it on Big E.
So what?
You broke your neck. So what? I mean,
man.
For all their gaslighting of Big E, you want to talk about heels making good points? I think they made a few compelling points. Like Big E didn't necessarily have to come back as a wrestler. He could have been their manager. He could have been just accompanying them to ringside from day one that he was let go from the hospital. And of course, he's going to have dates where he's going to not be available because he's seeing doctors and he's trying to rehab a little bit. But yeah, he could have been the manager before their relationship started going to hell.
He was too busy with a woman. He found a woman. How dare he? How dare he find a woman? That woman took everything from us. She took the New Day.
You feel strongly, Prophet.
Oh, the Prophet is fully on board with Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. They deserved this. Big E left them out to dry. He broke his neck. So what? You have to be there. They named all the guys that were there after broken neck. You had Edge. You had Daniel Bryan. You had, I fucking don't care about the rest, but there was plenty. Big E was just not, he didn't care about his two brothers. Instead, he's on the kickoff show and the post show. No one cares about that. These two were going through it, and there was no one to help them. And that's why this New Day is going to be the greatest New Day.
Yeah,
Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle.
He's on College Game Day. He's doing ring announcing for boxing.
He's
doing everything but helping Xavier and Kofi.
Did you guys see Ciampa chiming in saying, "Hey, I had a broken neck too"?
Yeah, well, fuck off, Ciampa. No one asked you, buddy. Fuck.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. That wasn't directed at you. It's just.
I know.
God damn it, Ciampa.
Why is Ciampa taking
this one
here?
out, Ciampa? Sit this one
On a
out.
real note, I think
Triple
this was great. I know there's been some people in our group chat. There was some people on board, some on the fence, but I don't think anyone really saw this coming. Everyone knew that Big E was coming back, but we thought it was either he was staying or they were breaking up and they were just going their separate ways. I did not see them both attacking Big E and turning into this, but it also pretty clear what they were saying, like how you will never ever wrestle again. He's clear. He's coming back. So that was great news. But I think overall it was a great segment.
How about
the thing about it was we all expected, with the way that the dynamic between Xavier and Kofi was going, that Xavier was going to be the one turning heel for sure. We did not expect, good guy, always positive Kofi to join him on this. And did you hear in the beginning of their promo, they said they had talked over the weekend, which is why they were a lot calmer being around each other. They were a lot in a better mood, seeing all this, nostalgia all with the mementos all around them, with the bootios and the trombone and whatnot. So you have to imagine, if you can fill in the blanks, they had to have had like a phone conversation over the weekend, and they apologized to each other for all the the shots they had taken at each other and personal stuff they had said. And they probably said, you know what? All this wouldn't have happened if Big E was around. Why hasn't he come back? And then when they're about to say, we're about to go our separate ways and give like the divorce talk to the kids and say, it's not your fault, it's our fault. Sometimes people grow apart and all that. And then at that moment, Big E comes back and they're just dumbfounded and like, okay, now you're back? After we just figured out that this all went to hell because you haven't been here, even with your broken neck. You could have been here all the whole time, and now you come back right when we're about to jump off the cliff, essentially. I thought it was a nice touch because you knew that they probably agreed with each other on one thing, and that is Big E not being around help the dissolution of their relationship,
that
where
Big E's
there was no one to lift them up and give them the rah-rah speeches.
Selfish prick that cares about just himself.
And he's also dating a selfish woman because, she was even talking shit. She was talking shit about how Kofi likes his vegan meals and Xavier is a child.
It's 2024.
What's going on here?
Yeah, no hate
There's
on the
discrimination
vegans.
It's
around
2024. Why
You're
are
the
we
reason
hating
why
on
the New Day
dietary
is the way they are.
preferences?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
how
crazy.
rude. How rude.
That's
Does she have
crazy.
any
And-
manners?
If she wants to attack our show now, if she gets a hold of this, the Prophet will be ready to attack back.
Okay.
The Prophet will be in touch.
Amazing. It was again another one of the best segments. This Raw was incredible with the opening segment and this segment. Was not expecting that at all. I still am interested to see how the dynamic plays out with Kofi and Xavier, because these are guys that were not on the same page for a long time. Does it really unite them completely together, or does it just make them a little more angry and still not on the same page as much, and maybe it pushes one of them towards a complete breakup, and then Big E is returning back like, what just happened to us? You know what I mean? Like maybe it further goes.
You know what I'm picturing right now? Kofi and Xavier both in the Royal Rumble, and as the clock ticks down, 3, 2, 1.
Oh,
Big
my.
E.
Yep.
Oh, Royal Rumble! Don't you dare be sour! And that whole routine, and the place is just gonna blow, and people's jaws are gonna drop, and Xavier and Kofi's jaws are gonna drop in the ring, and they're gonna
That's
go
how we
at
start
it.
the Rumble.
Yeah. Ooh,
Two things
start
on
the
1,
Rumble.
2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Kofi, Xavier, and then Big E at
No,
3.
come on.
No,
We
you
just
can't
did
do
the
that Big E
Usos
going
last
back
year.
quick.
We can't do that.
Two things I
yeah,
want to add.
yeah.
One, I'm not looking forward to the heel Def Rebel theme song of New Day. That thing is going to be gross, probably. And
Yeah,
second,
I'm
I
excited
think
about that.
all the roads lead to a WrestleMania match. I think someone said in the group chat, I forgot who, a triple threat match between Big E, Xavier, and Kofi at WrestleMania.
Yeah, because that tension might not have died down completely between Xavier and Kofi.
Yeah.
So that could unravel once again. We could get the triple
be
threat match that
triple
we've always
threat.
wanted with the Shield, but we'll have it with the New Day.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe they make it. Maybe they make up for their mistake there and get this one triple threat at Mania. People would be into that.
That'd be such an interesting match.
Well, speaking of big matches, we've got a card coming up with some big matches on NBC Saturday night's main event. We've got, I think, 3 or 4 matches confirmed so far, 3 officially,
Three.
and 1 is the tournament final for the WWE Women's United States Championship. But we have confirmed Liv Morgan versus Io Sky for the Women's World Championship. Gunther versus Finn Balor is in for the World Heavyweight Championship. And Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens for the WWE Championship. I don't really see too much coming out of this main event other than whatever fallout is going to come out of Cody versus KO, because I see Gunther retaining, possibly with Damian Priest's interference, which Gunther is not going to want, but it's all about Finn and Damian Priest's ongoing feud. I don't see a lot coming out of Io Sky's match with Liv Morgan other than Rhea Ripley's got next, and she wants a piece of Liv Morgan. And I don't see that feud going till WrestleMania. I don't think they can drag it out too much longer.
Not.
I would think the debut episode of Raw on Netflix is going to be Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley, and Rhea's going to get her belt back.
I don't really see too much coming out of this card. I think Io and Liv put on a great showing, but other than that,
do we have any favorites for the Women's
I'm
United States Championship? Off the top
I want
of
hold
our
on
head.
before we move off the Saturday night's main event. I'm giving at least a 25% chance to Kevin Owens walking out with the title, and then Cody getting it back at the Rumble or something.
Maybe
because they can't. We don't just
not counting it out.
I'm not. I just don't think that you can do just these long title reigns, WrestleMania to WrestleMania. Over. You gotta have some variety in there, and I don't think Cody would be upset with Kevin winning one from him and then winning it back going into Mania season. And
if anyone
do like a
deserves
last man standing match or something like that at the Rumble too, you could do some kind of big stip, I quit, something like that.
I think if anyone should get it, it's Kevin Owens for sure.
Exactly. Like Kevin's credible enough where it wouldn't be like something like if Finn Balor beats Gunther, that's fucking ridiculous. If Kevin Owens beats Cody, you're like, okay, let's see what we're doing here.
But if there is a short WWE title reign on the road to WrestleMania where Cody gets back, should we give it to KO or Randy Orton?
It's a great point. Orton could be the guy that this match could just go to shit, and Randy could come back and RKO them both or something, and it sets up a triple threat at the Rumble.
Yeah, I could see that.
That could be what we're looking at too.
We're really gonna have another WWE Championship, not one-on-one at Royal Rumble, back-to-back years.
Yeah, I don't think they care about that.
Yeah, I don't think they give a shit. Speaking of not giving a shit, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means.
Oh, come on.
No, I didn't need to do all that, but no, so we got what? We got a decent
no, let's talk about it. Can we talk about this? Let's talk about the Continental Classic.
That's why I brought it up.
I'm upset about the Continental Classic. That's the reason I wanted to bring this up.
Why are you upset about it?
Why did this thing just start? Why did they announce the card? Why couldn't they announce it on Full Gear? Why did they announce the card on a Sunday night at halftime of Sunday Night Football on YouTube for things? There's no pomp and circumstance. There's no special ring. There's no, you can't, not even like a set at the beginning, atop of the Dynamite set. We can't even get like something to walk through that says like Continental Classic, something. There's like, why are these matches any different than anything else? They haven't done anything to make it feel important. It feels like the old King of the Ring in WWE when they would just do random King of the Rings. When Vince was like, oh man, everybody's bitching that the King of the Ring isn't happening. Let's do it. But it shouldn't be happening. This is the second year of this thing. Like the Continental Classic should have been built up as like the biggest thing and could have carried TV and could have felt like a big deal if AEW decided to make it a big deal. And instead it's just another thing happening on Dynamite. And it's really like it could have been so much more fun. I'm excited for these matches. Like Brody and Claudio and Shelton and Kyle Fletcher are going to be awesome. I'm going to enjoy watching them. But it doesn't feel like there's any stakes to this.
And then your main event isn't even a Continental Classic match. Like, what are we doing here?
To your point, like what I've heard about the similar tournaments over what is it, the G2 in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and they have a similar one in G1. Sorry. And they have a similar one in CMLL. They make it feel like the World Cup. They have like all the wrestlers coming out and an anthem playing to like opening ceremonies and something like that. And they have different lighting and, different graphics. Yeah, it just seems like another random match on Raw. Unless they have the Continental Classic graphic like at the bottom of the screen, you wouldn't know that these matches are any different.
That's a problem. It's the presentation's a problem. Like if you don't think you're a big deal, if you don't think what you're presenting is a big deal, why should the audience? And that's been the issue with AEW the last couple months. It's honestly been since All Out. All Out was awesome. Like I was coming out, I was like, I love what we're going to see here. This is going to be exciting. And now it feels like everybody's so siloed because they have too many mouths to feed and too many people they're trying to give minutes to. It's like a basketball team with like 6 scoring guards right now where everybody needs their shots and there's not enough ball to go around. And everything gets siloed and doesn't matter. And we just talked about Raw for 40 minutes because everything in the main event is all interconnected. And AEW used to be good at this shit. They used to be able, they used to connect everything. Everything used to matter. And now none of these people interact. Like, why is Don Callis family and Hurt Business not concerned with the Death Riders in any way, shape, or form? These are 2 power groups, 3 power groups we're supposed to see in this promotion that aren't interacting at all. It just makes no sense.
Black too.
Do you think it
like everything?
Do you think it has anything to do with Tony Khan finally getting paid and now he just like says, "Oh, I'll just do whatever. I mean, I got my money."
Yeah, it's like a player getting a big contract and all of a sudden their production dips off a little bit. I think there's something
to do with that. I think it's the cooks that they have in the kitchen. They don't know what they're doing. Like it's a lot of stuff where it doesn't. None of this stuff makes sense, and it's coincided a lot with hiring of writing teams and stuff like that. And this felt better when I don't know. I think that there's just too many. Maybe this is just it all comes back to Tony because he's the one listening to the terrible ideas if they're coming through and he's not vetting them. So I think we have to put it on him, whether it be something lackadaisical right now because it's this new TV deal and he's waiting until they're on Max or whatever else, or waiting for Kenny Omega to come back. Like this promotion is definitely better when Kenny
doesn't sound like Kenny Omega
so.
wants to come back. He thinks AEW is just fine without
me.
Or at least that's what he's trying to intimate.
Another thing, this is not like a direct quote or anything, but the central discussion from the other day about AEW that Ibu said was the Elite's basically thing is it's not our problem to fix, which I don't agree with. This is 100% their problem to fix. But if they're not that invested and they just like it's got to be a Tony issue, right? And you got to look at the Punk issues that have all happened in the past. And obviously there's ways that could have been handled better. But then Cody leaves. Cody's gone too. And we don't know what that issue is about. Like there's clearly some rot in this place. And there's not many people left to be blamed, right? Like who else is then there? That's
didn't they fire one of the recent writers who they said was responsible for this thing and that thing and the other thing? They said he was responsible for most of the Learning Tree segments. And just last week, we got Chris Jericho defending the Ring of Honor title against Ishii, who keeps running through that forbidden door on Dynamite of all places, for crying out loud.
As we mentioned, CM Punk, the Elite, and Tony Khan sucking as a leader.
I'm hurt and I'm old and I'm fucking tired and I work with fucking children.
Someone got me some muffins.
He did want the muffins bad, man.
I mean, yeah.
All right,
Jake, you made a great point though. If the Elite is not willing to try and save the ship,
what are we talking about?
As it's going down, what the fuck are we even doing here?
The rumor is that they're all off TV right now, and eventually they're going to bring him back as the saviors of AEW against the Death Riders, and that's going to.
Why do that now? You could have done that right away. That's what I was going to say.
They got to be waiting for Kenny then.
It's been going like down for like a while now, but I think the worst that it really started falling is when they introduced the Death Riders and then had no solution besides have all these mid-card wrestlers try to defend AEW.
That's my point. Why are bigger groups not stepping up to these guys? Like put them in the main event and put them against every main eventer.
What are they going to do?
Maybe Tony thinks he has to build up the Hurt Syndicate or another group or two before he sicks them on the Death Riders.
Hurt Syndicate should go the fuck in there right now.
I think they need one more guy.
The thing that pissed me off the most, and what really has set me off the last couple weeks by AEW, is the seizing the Superstation, and then it was just fucking what's that?
Oh
dude's
man,
name?
that was
beat with a chair. That was the dumbest. That was the
biggest...
worst, and I was the most angry. I'm like, okay, this is something. Going into the show, I'm like, Mox is gonna be like in Atlanta, or he's gonna like take over the show, and there's gonna be cut-ins and everything. And it's one segment he's cutting a promo. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Dude?
What?
If I forgive, if the audience will forgive my use of words here, that segment was went over like a wet fart in church.
Yeah, it was terrible. So it's just they don't know what they all can't get on the same. There's too many mouths to feed, and this is what you get. There, you need a hierarchy. Stop trying to make everybody happy. You gotta have to piss some people off, and if they want to leave, let them leave. All right. Because you need to thin this out. I had to get my AEW rant in because
another curious thing that's been happening is what the dynamic between Hangman Adam Page and Christian Cage, Christian's trying to cash in his Money in the Bank contract or whatever they're calling it these days. And Hangman Page is supposed to be helping him. Why doesn't Christian just do it himself? Why does he have to owe Hangman Page a favor for taking out Jon Moxley in order for him to cash in? And by the way, this is a heel cashing in on a heel, being helped by a heel. So who are we supposed to root for in this case? Jay White because he's staking a claim? I don't know, but you know what? Let's try and talk. Let's try and talk some positive things about Dynamite, because they just announced, I believe, December 22nd, there is a Dynamite on 34th Street from the Old Manhattan Center, which could be an interesting dynamic. And it goes to the what people have been saying all along, and what AEW is going to be starting to do this new year, which is book smaller venues, more intimate venues, so you get the crowd in closer, you get all the hardcore fans in the round, so they don't have to block off half of these 20,000 seat basketball arenas and just shoot around it and make it very awkward like that.
They already are seeming to this month. I saw a Dynamite on the 18th, I believe it's scheduled for. They're only at like a 3,000 person venue, which is like perfect for them.
Yes,
it's crazy that AEW is going to 3,000 people, and TNA just announced that they're going to UBS, which is 18,000.
I will bet under on whatever the line is for them to put.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna I think they're gonna close the upper booth and the upper bowl, but still, I mean, to even try to do that is kind of crazy.
Wild.
Well, the only interesting thing I think is happening on Dynamite so far after the Continental Classics and all these things, Swerve's going to get to his revenge on Max Caster for disrespecting him. We'll hear from Jamie Hayter, probably going to be about what's her name that's coming back. Julia Hart, thank you. And those have been some interesting vignettes from a cinematic standpoint. But we also got the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal, which has been won by MJF after the Battle Royal, the match with MJF. Yes. Meeting the winner of the Battle Royals. He's won it for the last 5 years.
Kyle O'Reilly are both in the Battle Royal.
And I don't know who anybody else expects, but I expect Kyle O'Reilly to win the Battle Royal and MJF to once again win the Dynamite Diamond Ring, which I think is kind of lame. I think they should have done it a different way, where Kyle O'Reilly has his shot at MJF beforehand, and then they all enter the Battle Royal, and Adam Cole wins it. And Adam Cole says, no, we're not doing this at Winter is Coming. We're doing this at World's End, where I'm going to face you, get my revenge, and I'm going to take that Dynamite Diamond Ring, and that's going to be my revenge to you, is finally taking that Dynamite Diamond Ring off your hands, and do it at World's End. But instead, they're just going to do a throwaway match with Kyle O'Reilly, and MJF's just going to keep wearing his Dynamite Diamond Ring for the 5th, 6th year in a row. It's going to be the same old, same old. I just hope that they wrap this up in a bow by World's End and just move on from it.
Yeah, I'm not in the Max output the last couple months from his lair has not been great.
He showed up for the match, and then he's back to his lair doing pre-taped segments. I mean, they're slowly killing off MJF's.
Look at this.
Hell yeah.
What's up? What's up, Samoan Werewolf?
I love you, Solo.
I love you, Jacob.
Respect.
That's my man.
Wow. That's huge. We acknowledge the Samoan Werewolf in this chat.
I'm interested in Max Caster Swerve because I think Max Caster is the one who's joining the Hurt Syndicate.
That was going to be my other thing. Will we see a new member of the Hurt Syndicate sooner or later? Because MVP's been handing out those Hurt Syndicate cards like candy bars around Dynamite.
I think it's Caster, and that leads to Bowens working with Swerve against the Hurt Syndicate, which could make for some interesting tags on TV and some interesting matches. And maybe Swerve puts his own group together again too, something like that.
I don't care if they're trying to make him face right now. You have to put Powerhouse Hobbs in the Hurt Syndicate.
That's true.
Well, they just got him out of the Don Callis family, yeah.
It's a match
Seems
made
like
in
he's
heaven.
a conglomerate at the moment. but-
Yeah, whatever.
Or with Will Ospreay, which I wouldn't. If it's Will Ospreay and Powerhouse Hobbs as like a dynamic duo, I'm kind of moved by that. That'd be kind of sick. But yeah, Dynamite will be fun. There's good matches on there. It should be a good time. We're interested to see what happens with Jay White and Pac in that main event and the Death Riders. Let's see if they can up something up there.
Am I understanding this right? Okada's next Continental match is going to be on Rampage this
They
week.
loaded up Rampage this week, and I'm assuming they did it because they know Collision's going to get destroyed against the SEC Championship and Big Ten Championship Saturday.
They
So
got
I think
destroyed this
that-
past week anyway.
They got this.
I mean,
Yeah,
They put Collision before Survivor Series. Rampage went up against Survivor Series, so you knew that was going to get destroyed. But Collision and Rampage both did around like just under like 125,000, both of them.
Saturday, yeah, the Saturday Collision needs to go. They got to switch that day. It's just not. No one's watching wrestling TV show on that day. Like, and especially on a day where Survivor Series is like people are just going to.
Well, they tried to make it a Survivor Series lead-in. In essence, if you didn't want to watch the pre-show and you just wanted to,
my
watch
lead-in was
wrestling.
Auburn, Alabama to wrestling.
Yeah,
like, that's what like that's what
it was rivalry day, so they were going to get destroyed one way or the other.
I watched multiple War Games and then watched the War Games.
There you go. There we go. But let's see what they do with the Continental Classic the next month. Hopefully that I'm not as salty by the end of it, and there's some good stuff coming out of it because the Final Four could be really fun depending on how they go with that. And then next week we got Saturday night's main event Saturday, and that's going to be really exciting too. So we're getting back into that time where once we get into WrestleMania season, things start really picking up, and it's almost that time. And with the Saturday night main events sandwiching the Raw Netflix debut, it's going to be nuts over the next month. But all right, shout out to our sponsor, Batavia Downs. Shout out to Slick, the Prophet, Rob Ryan, and the head of the table, Mike Partham, for joining. This is Jake Micah. We will see you all next week. Folks, scissor me slick.
And have a good night now.
Wow.